Thank you. My name is Mohamed Duba. I'm the National Secretary General for Public Health Officers Kenya. We wish to address the current status of COVID-19 in Kenya, pertaining to the level of preparedness, case management, detection, and response. And I read the press statement that we have. The Association of Public Health Officers Kenya is a professional body registered in Kenya and whose membership comprise practicing public health officers and technicians from all sectors across the country. The members are deployed mostly as frontline health workers for this surveillance in counties and at point of entry across our country. The point of entries are the seaports, the land crossings, and our airports. We want to thank and acknowledge the government for the swift action in the containment and control of the coronavirus so far. However, we wish to relay our concern regarding preparedness for coronavirus detection, case management, and response, especially with the heightened probability with the direct and indirect contacts with affected persons. The government needs to scale up its effort to prevent entry, transmission, and case management for the virus transmission in the country. While the country has scaled up entry screening, we note that there is a shortage of personnel protective equipment countrywide, even for the frontline health workers protecting our country against this invisible monster. In view of the above, we recommend that the national government to undertake and oversee the following. The national government should immediately absorb 357 public health officers and technicians who have been registered to practice by the regulatory body but unemployed, to alleviate the current shortage of health workers, both at the point of entry and the counties. Since devolution, the national government and the county government have not really recruited this cadre of health workers who are mandated to prevent and control both infectious and non-infectious diseases. In fact, only some few counties have recruited these cadres. And we have so many people have left the job in terms of retirement, attrition, and there has never been replacement. And that is why we have been having emerging and re-emerging diseases in our country even before the arrival of coronavirus. So we humbly request His Excellency the President to absorb these cadres with adequate personal protective equipment and infectious control and prevention supplies to health workers countrywide, and especially those in the front line at the point of entries. As we are talking, there is an acute shortage of these personal PPEs for health workers. We are even being told that an health worker can put on one face mask for 12 hours, and that is very risky. And more importantly, these PPEs, the sanitizers, are not even available countrywide to the citizens. So this shortage must be alleviated. We should not bury our head in the sand and say we are well prepared when we can see adequately in the field that these commodities are in short supply. So I think the government should do something and try to ensure that there's adequate commodities and logistics supplies. 3, involve the Association of Public Health Officers Kenya in community health education and advocacy with regards to COVID-19, since they are the frontline health workers based at the community level. It is good to appreciate that this is the very cadre that eradicated smallpox on the face of this globe in the last 3 decades. And I think over the years, for reason not known to us, the government has given less priority to preventive and promotive health service. And globally, people are investing in prevention. So I think it's high time that we appreciate these cadres and bring them on board so that we can be able to deal with this invisible monster. There should be rigorous training of health workers countrywide to improve preparedness, detection, and timely response. We appreciate that some health workers have been trained, but still there is a gap. Since the training has not been cascaded to all the public health units in this country. So what are we saying? We are saying the health workers must not live in fear when they are taking on case management, even in screening. And that can only be so when they are adequately trained. So let this be cascaded to all the units in this country. Because there's a gap. We must appreciate there's a gap. We cannot just say there's no gap when there's no gap. When there's no gap, there's a gap. Then we recommend lockdown of non-essential services and some essential services that might contribute to the transmission of COVID-19 for 14 days. An example is bars and restaurants where people unconsciously and unsuspectingly dance and hug each other, then come back home and expose their families. Only higher-ended hotels that host foreigners and compliant with public health guidelines should remain open. We closed them during the census. Why not now, when we are fighting this deadly monster? We should come out strongly. And we should not wait for the disease to escalate and start lockdown. We know where Italy went wrong. The cases today in Italy, the death case is higher than in China. Why? Because they missed a point, and we are missing those points. If we are telling the children we close the schools, we close the universities, we tell them to be at home, and their dad dance in bars, hug ladies there, dance in the discos, and come back home. I think we should not be reckless. We should have a lockdown like tomorrow, or even today, in those bars and restaurants. Because people have taken it as an holiday, in fact. Because they have been told to operate from their homes, and now they are free to go into those places. And even the parents, where they have been talking to us, they are really scared because the children are at home, the dad is in the clubs. And so let us be serious. Let's have this lockdown. We might miss this point and go the Italy way. We cannot cheat ourselves. We are saying we must lock down these things for 2 weeks. We did it during census. Why not now? Is census more deadly than coronavirus? 6, provide adequate pre-testing kits at national level and across the 47 counties in order to pick out more cases for effective preparedness, detection and response. You see, we are only saying we have 7 cases, but how many we are not sure, because we don't have testing facilities at county level and at national level. At national level we have, but it's not adequate. And I'm happy that the minister is saying that we are going to do random screening on Saturday. We really appreciate and applaud him on that. But let's have some testing kits also at the counties so that we can pick out more cases. We know the first case of COVID in Kenya was not picked out by our surveillance health system. It's just a patient who turned himself to the facility. So that somehow shows that there's lapse in our surveillance systems. 8, we further also recommend pre-medical support to suspected and confirmed cases of coronavirus. Let the government provide pre-medical support to the cases and suspected and contacts. Number 8, the public health officers and technicians should be mandated to carry out intensive surveillance and follow-up of contacts and defaulters. Since devolution, the national government and the county government have not recruited these cadres of health workers whose cause mandate is prevention and control of diseases. Number 9, there is acute shortage of personal PPEs, personal protective equipment in the entire country. This one I've said. This will adversely contribute to high transmission, which will definitely increase morbidity and mortality rate and put the entire population at risk. The government should also regulate the price of personal protective equipment and, where necessary, provide free to the vulnerable population and those persons at risk. We have the vulnerable population, the elderly, the street children, and the person at risk people who are immunocompromised in this country. These people should be provided with free PPE so that we can be able to really engage this monster in a very serious manner. 10, the government should put in place adequate quarantine facilities, both at national and the county level. As of now, some counties do not have any quarantine and isolation facilities. This is a fact. We are not just saying this for sake, but we are getting feedback from the counties. So I think we need to have quarantine facilities, in fact, adequate quarantine facilities. Even the Mbagadi one is only 110 bed. Are we able to really face the situation if you have masses, cases, or contacts? Where do we take them? We are talking of self-quarantine. Self-quarantine, in fact, compliance monitoring is difficult. It's only at the goodwill of that individual. If he agrees to self-quarantine himself at home, it is okay, but there's no way to monitor compliance. So we need adequate quarantine facilities for contacts and also for the cases. Finally, we also appeal to the public to come forward if they experience symptoms of COVID-19, cough, fever, and difficulty in breathing, or flu-like symptoms. I think we owe a duty of care to the people of this country, and that is why we came up with this very strong press statement. And I hope our recommendation, we as Association of Public Health Officers, we are also mandated in our constitution that we advise the government on professional matters. And that's why we are saying, let's have a lockdown of some essential facilities, non-essential facilities, even essential facilities, only for 14 days, so that we can be able to stop people mingling with each other, and then exposing also the disease to our families. Because if the bars are open, you stay there the whole night, and you come back home, and we have told the children to be at home, the mother is at home. I think that is dangerous, and that is reckless. Let's lock them down. Now, today, not tomorrow. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you so much, Mr. Corey Chiboy, the Chairman, Association of Public Health Officers Kenya. And we echo what our Secretary General has said. I want first of all to take this opportunity to thank all our officers throughout the country, all public health officers and technicians, for the good work they are doing to contain this situation. However, as the problems are, most counties have not employed public health officers since devolution. The only numbers that we have currently are the ones which were employed during the national government. And we are now around 10 years down the line. Attrition has caused most of them deaths, others going for retirement, and the numbers has been going down, 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 and this is why some emergencies of diseases has come. We are seeing cholera again revisiting this country, and it was something of the past. It's because of the numbers of the people who are supposed to sensitize the communities on what to do. On this coronavirus, it's a new thing. But all the same, we want to say that our officers are at the frontier, and they are the ones who are doing the screening and again interrogation of the persons who are coming to this country. And therefore, they should be given the best protective clothing so that we don't lose any life because of such kind of, we don't have the protective care. Again, the thermometers, which is assigned, are not enough. They are not adequate. You can find even others doing it using their hands. You cannot measure somebody's temperature using a hand and get the right temperature. So we need the thermometers to be supplied across the country so that our people can get the right indicators. Again, our working relationship with the other clinicians has been very cordial across the country, and therefore we need to intensify this issue and stop the necessary areas where we don't have. So on screening and interrogation, these are the people who go back to the community. And if somebody has been put on surveillance, how do you monitor that this person has been put on surveillance, is there waiting for the 14 days? There is nobody who will follow up apart from the public health officer who will be revisiting this person. So the line listing of cases and those suspects will be put in the public health hands, and we have been doing that. So we will invoke Public Health Act, Part 4, Section 22 up to 42, to implement these activities of surveillance. And therefore our officers are really working 24/7. So on enforcement, we request our officers to be very vibrant at this moment, and I know we will suppress this coronavirus the shortest time possible. We are also appealing to our CS so that the numbers to employ more public health officers so that they can do this kind of work going forward, and count this again to consider the ratios as per WHO standards. That is what we have been missing. The point has been, can we see curative and rehabilitative services? And we forget the preventive and promotive services, which is the core mandate of everybody in this country. Again, we have the BBs, which we have mentioned, and it's a problem across the country. So we need to revisit these issues to protect our staff. I think our Secretary General has told you the scenario in Italy. This is not short of Kenya, because Italy did not take the few things and very small things which could have mentioned their country to be higher. China now is out of this problem. It is going to us. So we need really to produce these BBs as soon as possible. Suspension of open air markets and enjoyment places is something that we cannot negotiate. Let us have these places shut down for the time being, and we will live in a healthy country. We don't want to compromise, because as soon as you compromise and there is the 1 meter rule, how will you exactly measure that this 1 meter rule is really enforced? Can we do this by giving people to their own households? And even having markets at the moment is not there. We are even deeming of closing the mortuaries. If somebody who has died, let us bury within 24 hours, as it used to be. What is the need again of coming to the funerals? And we have banned all the gatherings. It is restricted only to the family members and at least 50 members. More than that, it is not going to be. So that is our request, and we are appealing to the government to employ more public health officers, support these officers, train them, and issue them with uniforms. Right now, you will find that public health officers, their uniforms allowance were removed. We don't know how it was removed. And right now, we require them to have dust coats, protective gear, because they are facing the enemy. So their uniform allowance should be brought back so that they can have the enjoyment like any other cadre. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Pressure.
Just a minute. Let us get Nairobi. Nairobi is the national.
So, we're going to what's
Okay, I want to take this opportunity to thank the government on the measures that have been taken to ensure that we control against the COVID disease. And I'm really appreciating the governors who have come out strongly to support our public health officers in combating this disease. I'm also supporting the idea of closure of markets and social gatherings. And I'm also appealing to all public health officers and the technicians in this country, because they are empowered by law to enforce all what our leaders are talking about. And it is our mandate to ensure that all whatever is being said is enforced. So I'm appealing to all public health officers to ensure that we are adhering to what the law says. Finally, I want to appreciate the stakeholders who have come out strongly to support in the prevention of this disease. As we know, prevention is better and cheaper than cure. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to say, let me just move it. Now, I want to say this as Nairobi. You've seen Nairobi have swung into action. And it's not for the first time. By the way, let me say this. You know, Kenyans, we like knee-jerk reactions. Nairobi, you saw it since the last week. We were trained. There was sensitization that was done. And right now, if you go to the streets in Nairobi, you found even the buses, even they are being fumigated. So it's not a question of saying we are waiting. Our public health officers have swung into action, and we're actually commending them for that. And we are happy. You know, the Secretary General said very three things. You know, this government, we are fond of, you know, when there's a problem, we now start engaging PHOs. Public health officers is not a second-class profession. We are equally to the task. So we are saying that in as much as we are trying to do whatever we are doing to do, going forward, we need to have continuous engagement between the GOK and the Association of Public Health Officers of Kenya. So the CS is right. We are working. The uniform allowance is not only nurses that are entitled to a uniform allowance, or the CEOs or the doctors. Even PHOs, if you go right now to the field, hata ukienda hapa kwa nini, railways and other places of plus, unapata the public health officers working and they are doing whatever is supposed to be done. So uniform allowance, ikue, now then we'll be able to see what we can be able to do. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Any question?
I have a few questions.
Yes.
We know that
Sorry, sir.
high rates of medical personnel right now in the front line,
Come again?
testing and treating
Okay.
the COVID-19 patients.
Just a minute. Yes. Yeah. Come again. Sorry for that.
So my name is Sharon from NTV. Right now we know hundreds of medical personnel are right at the forefront in testing and treating the COVID-19 patients. So my question is, number one, what kind of services are they offering and how do they manage them? And then what is it like being at the front line of this pandemic? And then how are they keeping themselves and their families safe?
Yes, thank you for that question. And I think the health workers, that is why initially I said there must be rigorous training for health workers at the front line, so that they can be, this is a disease that has not been there. Though we had the coronavirus as a flu, this is the most virulent, and this is a strain that has not been there. Now, that's why we are asking for more training. But more importantly, to answer your question, the frontline health workers, they are the first people to be in contact. If the flights come from China, for example, they are the first to board and screen them. And so they are the most vulnerable in terms of occupational health and safety. And that is why we said they need to be given maximum protection in terms of personal protective equipment. And number two, once they pick out a case or suspect that you have high temperature, now is the time that you are referred to a clinician for clinical assessment. Now the clinician does the clinical assessment. If he's satisfied that this meets the case definition of COVID-19, there's a case definition. If it meets the case definition of COVID-19, they refer you to the referral facility where you are quarantined for further investigation. The lab test is taken, and then whether confirmed or not confirmed, then the results come out, and then that's when you are released. But to add more in terms of the health worker protecting himself, he must have there's a protective gown which they are given, and they have the face mask when they screen. So they really take the precaution, assuming that the personal protective equipments are adequately in place. That is why we are advocating for adequate PPEs so that they can protect themselves. Of course, we expect that when they go home, the families have the sanitizers at home, and they can only be able to seek medical attention or to suspect themselves when they present themselves with the flu-like symptoms or the COVID symptoms like cough, difficulty in breathing, and fever. That's when they will keep away from their families. But generally to say, these are the highly exposed personnel. And that's why they should be motivated also. We are, like JKI, they are working 24/7. And they work long hours, and they are exposed. And there's no motivation package in terms of lunch, and so on and so forth. So the government should also motivate them. I think I've answered your question.
Let me add up. There is one thing that does, at the entry point, we have the screening. And the screening involves a lot of things. Some of them including the interrogation. Where do you come from? Which country? How long have you been to that country? And such like things. Again, when they complete the process of screening, they are either let go or you return depending on the thermometer results. But that is not the end. We still need them to be under quarantine for 14 days because the incubation period has not shown to some of them. That's why we are letting people in, but later on we come and look where they are. And right now I'm happy of what is happening in Matatus. They take the name of the person and the phone number. Even in case one person is detected in one Matatu today, all those who are in that Matatu will have to be followed up for surveillance. So we need really to be very serious as a country and also put the right measures in place. Yeah.
Okay, lastly, you all recommended a complete lockdown. We
Yes.
have thousands of Kenyans who are not in a position to stock their homes with food. They depend on every day going in and out of their homes so that they can place food on the table. So what becomes of it?
What we have said, we are very categorical. We talked about social places. But the essential places like supermarkets, we also, of course, appreciate His Excellency's comments on shielding the economy. We are very much aware of that. That is why we said, like, Juakali should not be closed. Essential supermarkets should not be closed. What we are saying, we close places like bars, restaurants. We are talking of in prevention of this disease. We are saying there must be social distancing. How do you really effectively oversee that social distancing when we are having discourse, we are having whatever in bars, in such a place, interacting with the waiters who does not observe hand sanitizing, all that. What we are saying, we are not saying to complete lockdown. Of course, His Excellency the President was very categorical on shielding the economy. You can't if you stop, where are they going to? There will be social disruption. We don't want that kind of situation. We are saying some places like bars and clubs, but we are not saying that we should lock down supermarkets because they have to be given some public health guidelines so that they have hand sanitizers for every person entering, coming out. There are measures which has been put in place. That's why we said that during my opening address in this press conference, I said we appreciate what the government have done so far. but there is more to be done. We are not there. That is what we are saying. Yes, but not complete lockdown. Juakali, where do they? They will come. There will be social disruption. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, unwashing. Kumbe.
Thank you. Anajua umekimbia.
There's something on unwashing which we did not.
Tumemaliza. Was it